So, as some of y'all may remember, last year I tried producing a series of videos on DC's Stargirl series, since I'm such a huge fan of the character and the Justice Society of America. Now, sadly, that project kind of fell off the rails due to my general inability to get things done and some personal stuff that unfortunately just completely derailed the project. But with the new season starting this week, I wanted to take some time to make a video and talk about something that happened in season 1 that really bothered me, and something that I keep coming back to, just not understanding why it was the way it was. So, I want to talk about that, and really, it all comes down to one villainous scene. Now, just a quick aside here, I realize that this video doesn't entirely fulfill Nando's original prompt, as I'm going to be talking about something that did not work about the villains versus something that did, but whatever, I'm still going to take this excuse to make this video, and really, it's the perfect timing. When else am I going to have timing like this? So for those of you who have not seen the show, a quick recap. Stargirl is the story of Courtney Whitmore, a high school sophomore who moves to the town of Blue Valley after her mother marries Pat Dugan, former sidekick to the superhero Starman of the Justice Society of America. However, when Courtney discovers Starman's staff in their basement, it's soon revealed that Blue Valley is secretly under the control of the Injustice Society of America, a group of villains that were responsible for the murders of the JSA 10 years earlier. With the help of her high school friends, each taking on the mantles of other heroes, Courtney and Pat set out to defeat the Injustice Society once and for all and get justice for the JSA. Now, I loved the Injustice Society in this show. Not only is it incredible to see all of these characters that I have a fondness for, that no one else gives a shit about, actually on the screen, but they were so impeccably cast. Every single actor brought their A-game and made their character so interesting. From Neil Hopkins as the incredibly goofy sportsmaster, to Nelson Lee as the terrifying Dragon King, to my personal favorite, my boy, the Southern fried charm that is Eric Goins as the Gambler.
And a tip. It's chocolate.
We love the Gambler in this house. And the really brilliant thing that I realized as I was watching the show was, this is not just a simple, straightforward superhero versus supervillain battle. The show smartly leans into its central character's American iconography to deliver an actual story about the evils of American conservatism. Or at least it tried to. Or at least that's what I thought. It's never outright stated, but the depiction of each of the ISA members as it goes on becomes clear that they are couched in the coding of modern American conservative politics. By the present day, the Injustice Society has effectively taken over Blue Valley under the guise of the American Dream, a vaguely defined philanthropic organization that, actually, it's not entirely clear what they do. It's kind of, they give money, I guess. But the point is that they are in control of everything from local businesses to Blue Valley High School. For example, the Wizard becomes Councilman William Zarek, a local politician who is expressly identified as being more concerned with power and presenting himself as powerful rather than actually keeping his promises to the people of the town. Now, admittedly, breaking political promises is not exactly exclusive to conservatives, but still. Stephen Sharp, the Gambler, a character already patterned after money-hungry American capitalists of the late 19th century, serves as the chief financial officer of the American Dream, and he is depicted as being focused primarily on maximizing their profits and refusing to part with any money, often at the expense of people. Anaya Bowen, the second fiddler and principal of Blue Valley High, and Dr. Henry King aka Brainwave, while not representing any obvious conservative traits, both represent the higher institutions that conservatism tries to manipulate in order to serve their interests, primarily academia and medicine. And lastly, we have the Gym Rats, Crusher Croc, aka Sportsmaster, and Paula Brooks, aka Tigress. These two characters are perhaps not the most obvious, but they are more emblematic of the conservative voter base. Both are depicted as your typical sports parent. You know, the kind of people that revel in their child's success and use that success not only to boost their own egos, but also secure themselves positions in power and their child, and are willing to cheat, and in their case, murder, just to protect their child's privilege. Trust me, as someone who lived in a conservative town when he was in high school, I knew these exact people. I need something to drink. Okay. Where were we? Nope. And lastly, there's the leader of the Injustice Society himself, Jordan McKent, aka Icicle. Throughout the show, he preaches about America being a great land once built on family values, and how disappointed he is that people think differently nowadays. So he wants to return the country to a previous point in its history when it was much better than it is now. You know, I think there's like a phrase for this, but I can't entirely remember. It's got some sort of acronym. It's something like A, G, A. I'm sure it'll come to me eventually. And I could even take it one step further. It's never explicitly stated where Jordan gets his powers, but it is established that his family is originally from Norway, and during a traditional Norwegian grace that I am sure is not authentic at all, he and his family invoke the land of Niflheim. This connects them to Norse iconography, a frequent source of symbology for the alt-right. Even Jordan's appearance with his striking blue eyes and bleach blonde undercut and suit and tie dress calls to mind the image of modern white nationalist leaders like Richard Spencer. And this move from simple American conservatism to the reemergence of fascism is demonstrated best by Jordan's willingness to work with Dr. Shiro Ito, aka Dragon King, an actual, like, I kid you not, an actual Japanese scientist who worked for Imperial Japan during World War II. Like, I know this phrase gets overused a lot in the discourse, but he is literally a fascist war criminal. And while the other members of the ISA show themselves to be not fully on board with aligning themselves with Ito, it's through Jordan that they get brought on board and become complicit in actual fascism. And it's not just the characters. Take a look at Blue Valley itself. Originally just an Easter egg from the comics because the writer is a Flash fanboy, Blue Valley, Nebraska, is presented in the show as the ideal American heartland town, full of friendly people, which the kids who were born and raised in Los Angeles, California, find weird and unnerving. However, that idealistic veneer is shown to hide some dark undercurrents. Part of Blue Valley's history is even given a decidedly sinister origin, when it's revealed that a group of Freemasons founded the town after the Civil War to be, and I quote, free from interference from the outside. Yeah. All these influences taken together, it is very clear what kind of portrait the creators of the show are trying to paint of the ISA. They're American conservatism, all wrapped up in a neat little team. So, because of that, it's really weird when, in the penultimate episode of the season, the full extent of the ISA's Project New America is revealed. Using a machine created by Dragon King to enhance Brainwave's powers, they will brainwash half the adult population of the United States into thinking the right way and sharing their values. And what exactly does this involve? Oh, only the most nefarious, horrible ideas like getting people to adopt clean energy and eliminating bigotry and providing universal health care. Oh, and if anyone with too strong of a free will tries to resist the brainwashing, they die. Yeah. I hope everyone at home is cringing as hard as I was when I watched that episode. Now, in theory, giving your villains noble motivations is a nice way to try and make them more relatable and give them some depth, but when you do it wrong, it can be really bad. Marvel Cinematic Universe has had this problem, and I won't get into that today, but put a pin in that for a sec. What's especially a problem is it's not entirely clear when this became the ISA's plan. Jordan's backstory is one of the earliest presented of the villains. Actually, the only one outside of Brainwave and some brief discussions of Dragon King and Wizard, established in Episode 3. After losing his wife to an undefined illness caused by corporate neglect, he dedicated the rest of his life to hunting down those involved in the corporation that caused her to get sick. But aside from that, it's not very clear. We don't know how he came to be a villain. Was this what he was doing all along? And, if so, did the JSA know about this? Because if so, it paints a really bad picture of the JSA. It turns them basically from being superheroes into, super cops. Because, let's be clear what this does. It takes these characters that I have just explained are couched in this coding of conservatism, and it tries to turn them into secret evil leftists. What? Okay, pull that pin. I mentioned the MCU earlier, and the same problem myself and other critics have with these revolutionary villains is they need to be villains, so even if the heroes, and by extension the audience, agree with their goals, they have to resort to violence and manipulation to achieve it, and that paints a very poor portrait of revolutionaries. And that's why this one scene completely ruins the Injustice Society. At best, it's a misguided attempt at making sympathetic villains, and at worst, it basically says that leftists are secretly brainwashing murderous fascists. Which, yikes! What I will say is that, partially because of how just incredibly poorly handled these characters were, I'm actually really excited for what we're getting in Season 2. The main two antagonists we seem to be getting for Season 2 are Cindy Berman and Eclipso, both characters who are not defined by any sort of real morality. They are just pure evil, out to cause destruction. And that's a very straightforward goal that's easy to write. And of course, we are getting another villainous character. His morally gray areas are entirely selfish. The Shade is genuinely one of my favorite villains in comics, partially because when he is presented as a noble figure, he's also a very selfish figure. He's a character completely defined by selfishness and his own self-interest being what motivates him to do bad and do good. He's a wonderful character. The fact that James Robinson is contributing to the show, that's just a very good sign. I'm very excited about that. And heck, even the setup of characters like Cameron McKent or Artemis Croc becoming villains is likely going to be tied more into their personal beef with the new JSA rather than anything to do with their parents' New America project. Hopefully. All we can do with new darkness creeping into Blue Valley is hope that the next villains will be much better written. And you know, as dear old Oscar Wilde said, all of us are in the gutter, but some of us are looking to the stars. Keep looking to the stars, my friends.